Hey YouTube. Today I'm starting to put the interior log siding on. It is a 12-inch log siding that goes on the interior side of the house to mimic the log on the outside. So this is a smooth interior. It's not a hand-hewn interior. So I'm trying to work out a good method so that these will go on and look good. So I'm trying it out first in a small room to get a method down, and then I'll be moving on to the the big room, the great room. So first thing off, that I've noticed first is that if you get any warp or whatever in your board, they're not going to line up, and the problem with that is you get a bigger gap between them where the tongue is. Well, but that's where you put your screw. So your screw goes in the tongue of the wood, so and angles down into the stud. So if you get any gaps between them, your screw head will show. So first of all is getting a good straight board. So I got to look the boards. I've learned to look the boards over before I cut. And if you got like a 16-foot board, more than likely one end is going to be a little dog-legged. So you try to pick the straight end and cut out the section that you need. And the dog-leg part will work better in smaller areas. You'll be able to cut out smaller boards out of that. But so first is getting a good straight board. Next is test fitting it. And then after it's test fitted and make sure it's worked, then I put on the construction adhesive just for that board. I don't put the whole construction adhesive up the whole wall. I find that if I test fit one that doesn't work, and you don't want a bunch of adhesive on it. So what we're using is a Loctite. It is a PL 400 subfloor adhesive. This is an all-weather subfloor adhesive. It's basically construction adhesive, and that will hold the wood on the wall over time better than the screws will. And then the other problem I have is the screws themselves. So I got 3 different screws. So I've got 2 gold screws that are exterior grade. One is a number 9 and one is a number 7. And then also I have this, these are called trim screws. And also have a more of a drywall style of trim screw. And the reason they're called a trim screw is they actually have a smaller head. So they have like a lower profile head, less noticeable, which is what we need. And it is black, and it is an interior screw. So first of all, if I started using the blacks because they are the cheapest, so one to go with what was cheaper. They're a little longer screw. But those show, the problem with them is they show really well. So if you have any spot, I mean even a really tiny spot, like right here is just a really tiny spot, there is a black screw head behind there. And you will be able to kind of pick that out. And now this wall looks pretty good. Okay, so don't, I may be picking it apart, but this wall looks pretty good. And that is minor, very minor right there. So, but I really don't want those screw heads showing. So I've been trying the different screws, trying to see out which one I actually really want to use when I get to the big room. And this one here, this is the number 9. I find that its head is the biggest, so I don't really like it. Now I'm getting ready to try this number 7 screw. It has the smallest head. And then I'm also going to, since they drill into the tongue of the tongue and groove, I'm going to go ahead and start pre-drilling for those. So hopefully I won't split as many boards, because it's a thin part of the board, so it may like to split on you. And so we're going to try that out, and hopefully I got a good method, and we'll move on to the great room. So what I have here, this is the 12-inch siding that we are using to put onto the house. I think they call it a 12-inch siding, but it really only has 11 inches of face that shows, and that's the same on the outside. The outside only shows 11 inches. Basically, it ends up being 7/8 of an inch thick. It's got a groove on the bottom and a tongue on the top, and it's got chamfered edges. It looks like a really large piece of car siding. And you can also do hand hewn and have that axe, hewn face on there. But we decided to go with the smooth siding because it'll be a lot easier to sand out any marks, and if you want to polyurethane it and follow up, with your sanding in between coats. The smooth sided, I think, is the way to go. It's be a lot easier to work with than messing with the hand hewn. Now this is the car siding that we're using for the interior walls, or the wood siding basically we're using on the interior walls. It is basically an 8-inch car siding, so it has an 8-inch pattern on one side and it has a double 4-inch pattern on the other side. And this is the same wood that is used on the vaulted ceiling in the great room. So I didn't want to, I wanted something different on the walls, and I like this bigger pattern better anyway. So all my walls are getting this 8-inch pattern on the interior divider walls. And now there is one room downstairs. The bathroom downstairs is actually getting this double 4. And the only reason it's getting the double 4 is because I started putting it on wrong and I didn't want to take it back off. So I just went ahead and said, I'll just make this room different, and there shouldn't be an issue with that. Now this 8-inch siding, it goes on way quicker than the 12-inch siding. So on this we're using an air nailer, just putting in some brad nails or finish nails through the tongue, and we're still using the construction adhesive on the back. But this 8-inch board you can actually flex a lot better and take out some of the warpage if there's a warp in the board, and this just goes on way quicker. It's way easier to mess with. Now the 12-inch board, if there's a warp in it, you're really not going to take it out, so or it's real difficult to. So the 12-inch boards, if you have a crooked end on it, you basically just need to cut that end off and use whatever length is straight. But these 8-inch boards are way easier to work with. We now have most of the 12-inch siding installed. We just got a little bit left in the master bathroom to finish up. I actually ended up, I think, pretty lucky. The builders that built this place, I told them if they needed any winter work, on cold days, rainy days, to just let me know, and they could help me put on this interior log siding. So I ended up lucking out and was able to have that crew help me for about a week to get all this log siding on. So down here, this is the basement. We've got all the wood on the walls in the basement. We are just missing some on the inside of the closets. There's a wall in the mechanical room that still needs to be done, and then there's a little bit of wood that'll have to be done once we put a shower in the bathroom. But other than that, all the tongue and groove wood is complete down here. So what is next? Well, next we're going to come back. We're going to come back with a sander. There's a lot of scuff marks. There's pencil marks on the wood. We're going to come back with a sander. We're going to sand this wood down and get all the marks out after we're all done. So it'll just, after all the siding's done and we're done touching the majority of these walls, we're going to come back and just kind of sand them down and get them all looking good. Now the big question people ask is if I'm going to polyurethane or put some kind of coating on the wood. So the model home did not have anything on the wood, and it looked good. It had aged over time. It had darkened a little bit. And then the other thing that I've read is, if you're going to do that, it's a big job. So start in the smallest room. So I think I would be more apt to start in a room where you're afraid that stuff will splatter on the walls and discolor it. So I may start in the half bath and polyurethane that room. May do the master bathroom and the downstairs bathroom. Do those first, or at least the smallest one, and see how much of a job it really is. I don't plan on doing the great room because I knew that that would be a huge job. So right now the great room, I don't plan on coating these walls with any polyurethane. Now I will coat the trim, the doors and the windows where people will be putting their hands, but the majority here on the actual log siding I don't plan on coating at the moment. As you can see here, this is a stack of the flooring that we have bought for the first floor. We bought a bamboo engineered hardwood floor. We're going to have that. We'll be putting that down here soon as we get done with all the walls. We'll have a video on the timber frame staircase once we get all our components for the handrail system that we're going to be using in here. And we'll have a video on the mechanical room, the HVAC system once that gets complete. So there'll be more videos to come as we progress on the build. Can't wait to get into the house and move in. Our goal is shooting for April to be in the, to basically close the construction loan, get an actual mortgage, get moved into the house. Shooting for the April time frame, and then we can move on to developing the property more. So stay tuned, more videos to come. Like always, thanks for watching.